In this lesson, there are no new concepts to learn. However, the app does need a little more work before we can continue with the course. So I thought, what better way to do that than with a hands-on challenge? Okay, in this lesson, I'd like for you to accomplish two things by yourself. First, after submitting the entry form, the old values continue to stick around. I'd like for you to reset the values after the form is submitted. That is, set the body of the entry back to a blank string and deselect all the emojis. Also, let me share just a quick tip. You'll probably want to refactor the emit in the entry editor component from the template area into the script section. In doing so, $emit will no longer be available. But you can get the exact same function from the return of the define emits macro. And usually in this context, you'll see it without the $sign. Alright, that's your first challenge. Go ahead and pause the video, and I'll be here waiting with the solution when you return. Alright, so how do you think you did? Did you get things working? Well, if you didn't, don't worry about it. I'm going to walk you through my solution together right now. My first step was to create a function to handle the submit of the form. I called it handle submit. Then I cut the emit that's inline in the template and replaced it with our new handler. Next, I pasted that copied code into the handle submit function. At this point, TypeScript and ESLint both are complaining that $emit is not defined. So I'll just rename $emit here to plain emit, and then get emit from the define emits macro. Awesome. Now, inside of the body of the payload for our event, we got errors on body and emoji. The reason for this is that now we're in the script section, and refs are no longer auto-unwrapping. So we'll need to manually target .value on each of these properties. You know, if it weren't for TypeScript complaining about the types here, we might not have caught that so easily. Finally, let's get to actually resetting our form. After the event is emitted, I'll reset the body to an empty string. And then I'll do the same for emoji. But now TypeScript is complaining. If I hover over emoji.value, we can see why. Type string is not assignable to type emoji or null. Oh, okay, right. That should be null instead of an empty string. Sweet. Now, if we check things out in the browser, I'll type some text into the text area, select an emoji, and then submit the form. Sure enough, the entry body and the emoji are reset. Great. Now, the next challenge I have for you is over in app.view. Here, I'd like you to get the handle create entry function doing more than just console logging the emitted entry. What I'd like you to do is define and type some kind of reactive array in order to hold all of the entries created by the entry editor. And then every time a new entry is created, I want you to push that new entry into that reactive array. Lastly, in the template, I'd like you to loop over each entry in that entry's reactive data and display an li for each one. Right now, don't worry about what's actually being displayed on each of the entry cards. Just make sure that every time you add a new entry, that the correct number of cards are added below the form. Make sense? Alright, pause the video and see what you can come up with. I'll be here with my solution when you get back. Okay, now let's see how to do this. My first step will be to create the reactive entries array in app.view. I could have just as easily have used ref, but since it's an array and I've already got reactive imported, I just stuck with reactive. Next, let's type each of the items within the array as an entry. Finally, down in the handle create entry function, I'll push new entries into our entries array. And actually, this will cause our latest entries to show up on the bottom of the list. So let's switch out push for unshift. Nice. Now it's just a matter of looping over each entry in the entries array for the LIs in the template. As you can see, we've now got a red squiggly line on line 25. Hovering over it lets us know something that you might already know. That is, when you're using v4, it's always expected for you to have the special key attribute. So let's add that as well. But what should we actually provide here? Well, I'll just start typing in entry, dot, and then we've got this nice handy list to choose from. Oh yeah, ID will be perfect. Now I'll give the file a save, and over in the browser, my lone hard-coded card is now gone. That's actually a good sign since we don't have any entries in our entries array. So let's try adding a new entry. Cool, one card appears, and adding another entry. Great, still another card appears. Awesome. Once again, the content of our cards aren't correct yet, but we'll fix that real soon.